remember, the headlines have been screaming about how Walmart has reported its quarterly numbers, and it did see the Flipkart acquisition negatively impact the international business. But the management has been very upbeat on the potential of growth from here on. In fact, PhonePe as well found a special mention in the earnings call, with plans of actually going ahead and monetizing that platform. So how exactly does PhonePe plan to make money? What are the new bets that they're looking to invest on? And what is their strategy in order to guard themselves from the turf with the likes of Facebook, Amazon, Google, all of them vying for a big pie of this very competitive arena? Well, my colleague Rahul Dayama in Bengaluru caught up with Sameer Nigam of the company in order to understand their plans. Let's listen in to that exclusive conversation.
Well, payments really has been the big bet across companies from an ecosystem perspective. Also, we saw RBI also really 3 days back come out with a report. Joining me is Sameer from PhonePe to take the conversation forward. Thanks for joining in. Sameer, your first sense of RBI, NEFT charges to be done away with, which is of course a smaller one, but the larger focus that they want to really put on digital payments, and we've seen that over the last 3 years, right, in terms of how the ecosystem has also evolved.
Well, it's definitely been a bunch of really interesting policy changes over the last 3 years. I think UPI, obviously, we had the landmark billion transactions in a month. Barely been 3 years since they launched. So it's been an absolutely amazing sort of journey for the entire industry, I think. RBI is taking the next few steps in terms of opening up standing instructions across networks, allowing tokenization, trying out a bunch of different things now, and I think account aggregate and a few other things that will really open up the market. So that's very exciting.
You know, UPI that you spoke about, I want to touch upon 1 billion transactions in a month is massive, and we've seen that interest sort of emerge as a very popular payment platform across players. That is, UPI is powered across players. The scale and scope of it will only increase in the months to come, really?
Well, I think we've just scratched the surface, because UPI's addressable market is everyone with a smartphone, and as we are seeing, right, the geo effect, as it's called, there's 152 million Indians coming into the addressable market every year now. And these are people who actually have to walk the farthest distance to pay a bill. These are the people whose local merchant ecosystem never had a POS machine. So with UPI, with QR codes, with a lot of players in the market really opening up acceptance touch points, I think the best is ahead of us.
Got it. Sameer, coming to the financials, now we have a lot more data on startups and how they're performing. The losses have really, gone up significantly, close to 2,000 crore rupees. Would you outline, are there specific investments that you're making? Is it also led by discounting that you said has significantly come down but will continue? What has been the trigger?
So I think over the last 3 to 4 quarters, discounting or cashback, at least for us, has come down very significantly. Most of the investment is going into creating a pan-India merchant acceptance touchpoint network. We have over 75 lakh merchants on UPI acceptance rails now, and that is a big area of investment. Almost 10,000 people on the ground. And anytime you're trying to build national infrastructure for something like payments acceptance, it's going to take some money. I think the other thing is obviously a lot of players in the market competing fiercely, so there's a lot of branding dollars going out. But it's more in the sphere of marketing and laying out distribution. I think the cashback sort of madness is coming to a slowdown, which is good.
Got it. But overall cash burn for PhonePe will continue. You spoke about how the merchant network will be a massive bet. Yeah. You're deploying a lot of resources there, and that's an ongoing effort, right? Would continue over the next year. So you would continue to make these investments over the next few years, really, and as far as revenues, that will take a backseat?
No, so I don't think revenues take a backseat. Let me clarify that first. I think we look at the profit pools opening up separately, and we look at the growth of the offline network separately. Offline, by next year end, we want to get to close to 20 million merchants. We believe if 2 crore merchants in India and small shops and businesses in every cycle shop and pawn shop, everyone's accepting digital payments, I think it'll become mainstream. And I think until that goal is reached, I don't think we're going to stop. I think we're very clear about the fact that that's what it takes for India to go digital. Along the way, we have to actually figure out very purposefully how we'll make money, what we'll make money on, whether it's advertising, financial services, or basic payments and distribution. And we're working on those in parallel. our revenues are opening up.
Got it. So you're saying, the eye on profitability, the pools are really open. So you are confident that there is a stream out there, but if you want to tap into and focus on, this is going to be a long-term sustainable business. Of course, you have to make those investments early on to ensure that you can repay. Because we saw Google sort of rake profit, right, from the payment side, at least.
No, but okay, that's a bit of math jugglery, because as you saw, I think there was about 1,200 or 1,400 crores is what the newspaper article said they got for free from the Singapore entity. If I do that math, then we're profitable as well. Obviously, someone's bankrolling the growth, and that's fair. Again, I think there's opportunities to monetize the platform itself. We do well over 1 billion app sessions every month. That makes us one of the largest and very attractive platforms in the country for advertisers. Similarly, financial services, we've already launched with mutual funds. We've already launched going to foray into insurance distribution, bunch of categories in the coming months. So while they're nascent, it's very, very clear in our minds that we are going to focus on the path to profitability while we actually grow. They can't be in a lag cycle. I think we've seen enough of these stories in the Indian ecosystem where you end up growing really, really big, but there's no revenue following.
Yeah.
So
you wouldn't want that.
I would not want to go that way. I'm very clear that we need our revenues to grow in parallel with our growth.
Interesting. Also one interesting offering that you're trying to build is an entire app ecosystem, how you want PhonePe to be a super app. How will that really work by? Because we have seen several players eye that also, considering India, bandwidth issues, people don't want many apps on their phone. You've seen that happen. How would you really go about building this app ecosystem itself? And how would it really help PhonePe in the long process?
So the Switch platform now has 80 partners and 80 well-branded partners. Just yesterday we launched the McDonald's app on the PhonePe app. I think going in, one view is customers want choice and they want it on their fingertips, but people are still nervous about making payments, digital payments, on apps that they don't know. So if you come to PhonePe and you're already paying bills, you're already doing recharges, sending money, you're comfortable with the payment part of it. There's strong trust built on PhonePe as a platform. So now our job is to make sure that there's as many digital use cases as we can bring into the platform. And to make that happen, we felt that it's okay to actually go and integrate with everyone as a payment gateway, but really the trust sets in if these services are available on the Switch platform. So we are at about 80 partners right now. We'll close the year with about 100, but next year we expect to explode. We want to get to about 5,000 of these partners. We want to go into every major city and make sure that every major offline player who has a small website, but a non-transactional website, is able to get their business digitally on the Switch platform. And I think that's important, because it's one thing to say that every shop will have a QR code. It's another thing to say that people who are not in the physical proximity of that shop can also do business. And I think that's the outlook. And it makes money because you're a distribution platform.
That's an interesting model that you're exploring. But coming to the future of fintech or payments itself, where do you really see PhonePe? Everyone's talking about how lending is really going to be a big driver. Do you want to be there? Everyone wants to be in lending. All the payment players are in lending. Is that really important for you to solve the problem of payments in the long haul?
Well, I think solving the problem of payments is still going to be work for the next 2 or 3 years. Again, there's so many different types of use cases which require capabilities. There's still a lot of friction because of two-factor. So I think tokenization needs to go mass market. There's 1 billion people who need to be trained on digital payments, and standing instructions, auto payments, all of those things are still very much problems to be solved. And I think that work will continue. As far as financial services and specifically lending, we said in January this year that we'll start looking at that space in 2020 in terms of where do we place our bets, will we play, how will we play. So maybe we are late to the market, maybe we just sort of left that one alone, and it's been a good thing, because it's also the graveyard of many fintech companies. So I think we'll enter cautiously.
Because we haven't seen any sustainable models also, right? And it's also a new market. Anyone seems to be lending to everyone. And so that's
the approach. I think we were very clear we want to be very data rich, and models need to be proven out at scale for other things, risk and fraud. Our risk and fraud platform now is one of the best in the country, and that's something we're proud of. And therefore, if we had to actually extend that and start thinking about credit, there's other obvious questions also. Intent to pay back is the biggest question in credit, actually. But I think the ingredients are falling into place where we can now start thinking about lending. I do believe lending is perhaps the biggest problem to solve for in this market, right? We're a very aspirational young country. Tens of millions of consumers and businesses want capital to grow, to realize those ambitions. So I think lending will, in fact, at the end of the day, create massive, massive opportunities in India. And will we play? It is a foregone conclusion. I think we'll have a play. What that play is going to be, we'll figure out.
All right, works. As far as MDR charges are concerned, you've been pretty vocal at NPC also recently. Is there a need for more clarity on that? Also, how the move will impact players across the board, right? A need for a larger level playing field.
Yeah, I think the two questions we asked were, one, what's the intended outcome? If the expectation from the policymakers and the regulators is 500 million people will get on digital payments in the next 2 or 3 years, then there's an entire infrastructure to be laid out. If no one's making any money on digital payments, people will not invest in POS technology, people will not lay out very large fees to acquire, the banking system won't have incentive, the networks won't evolve. I mean, all the push to actually transform and disrupt is coming from every player in the ecosystem. And if no one has any monetary incentive, this whole razor and blade sort of strategy of payment should be free, you'll make money on data, falls flat at this stage. I think it's a little too early. I think we'll end up, like Chan, I've said this before, I think we'll end up with MDR being very, very small. But there's a huge difference between 5 basis points of MDR at scale versus no MDR today. I think that's a cause for concern, because we need clarity around what's the next 24 months going to look like. I think related to that, if there is no money on payments and the other profit pools have not opened up for all these players, we need clarity on the data strategy of the country. Because there's been a lot of debate about who owns the data, who owns
we still haven't seen those regulatory regulations come by, still in the works, while the government says we are on it and something will be out, but we still haven't seen that.
I think it's beyond just the payment players. I think the entire industry is trying to figure out, can we actually use data to open up profit pools? Because if data is not something that you can use, then you absolutely have to figure out how to make money on the core use case, which again goes back to payments and MDR. I think these two need to be answered concurrently. I don't think looking at them in isolation gives us a clear answer.
But yeah, that the entire debate or clarity on data would really open up the ecosystem in many ways. Last 2 questions before I let you go. WhatsApp, and I've asked you this so many times, they've had their pilot on for as long as we've been discussing it. While the Facebook CEO says they're expecting it to happen soon, RBI struck it down. Do you really see that? And I always ask you to be candid, the biggest disruptor as far as peer-to-peer is concerned, considering they do have that ecosystem in place and they can really change it?
See, it's hard for anyone to write off Facebook. Having said that, the first time you asked me that question, we had maybe 35, 40 million users. Now we're drawing on 200 million. Google Pay is there at scale. Paytm is at scale. So I think the longer they're not in the market, the less, obviously, as a competitor, I worry about it. Also, I think it's unclear on exactly what's holding them out of the market. If it's data localization, that's not adding up, because Google themselves has publicly said they're not localized yet either. So I'm not sure what's holding it back. I don't know when they enter, and therefore it's been so long now, I honestly don't care.